Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to tackle one of the biggest, most annoying hurdles for anyone learning French: how to shut down that little translator in your head and start actually thinking in French when you read. So, let's dive right in.
So, does this sound familiar? You're reading a sentence and your brain is doing this constant, exhausting back and forth. French word, English word, French word, English word. Ugh. It is so slow, it's frustrating, and it just kills the joy of reading, right? Well, trust me, you are not alone, and we're going to fix that today.
So first things first, we've got to understand the enemy. I call it the translation trap. It's this super common habit that honestly holds so many people back from really getting fluent.
Think about it this way. When you read in English, the words go straight to meaning. It's instant. But when you translate from French, you're adding this whole extra detour on your mental highway. You read the French, you search for the English word, and then you finally get the meaning. This little side trip doesn't just slow you down, it's a huge mental workout, and it's why reading in French can feel like a total chore instead of, fun.
Just look at the two paths on the screen here. On the left, that's the translation trap in action. Le chat est noir has to become the cat is black, which then finally turns into a picture in your head. It's this clunky two-step process. Our goal, what we're aiming for, is on the right. Le chat est noir instantly creates that mental image of a black cat. No middleman, no delay. That direct link is the secret sauce to fluency.
Okay, so let's make it official. Our new goal is to think directly in French. We are ditching the translation habit and aiming for that direct understanding. This is going to be a game changer in how you approach the language.
And let's be super clear, this isn't some cheap speed reading trick. We are literally talking about retraining your brain. We're building new pathways that let you process French as its own complete language. The whole point is to connect French words directly to ideas and pictures without needing English as a crutch. That is what fluency really feels like.
So the big question is, how do we actually do it? Well, I've got you covered. We're going to break it all down into 3 simple, super practical techniques that you can start using like today. This is your action plan.
All right, here they are, the big 3. Number 1, spot the cognates. Number 2, use context clues. And number 3, visualize the scene. See, these aren't some complicated academic theories. They're just tools for your toolbox. Let's dig into that first one.
Okay, cognates. These are your absolute best friends when you're learning French, I promise. These are basically freebie words. They look the same, they sound similar, and they mean the same thing in both languages. Think of words like information, important, or nation. There are literally thousands of them, and they work like these fantastic little anchors in a sentence that help you get the meaning without having to translate a thing.
Okay, enough theory. The best way to learn anything is by actually doing it, right? So let's practice these techniques together with a couple of easy sentences.
Le restaurant est fantastique. Okay, now just pause for a second. Resist that urge to translate. You immediately see the cognates, don't you? Restaurant, fantastic. Your brain just grabs them and instantly understands what's going on. No extra work needed. That's the power of cognates right there.
Awesome. Let's try the next one and see how these skills build on each other. Le docteur arrive dans sa voiture. Pause again. Now, maybe you don't know the word arrive, but you definitely know doctor and voiture. So what's the story? What do doctors do in cars? They arrive. You just use the words you do know to figure out the one you don't. That's using context clues like a pro. And now for our third technique. Ready? Le grand éléphant mange une pomme. This time, instead of breaking it down, I want you to just create a little movie in your head. What do you see? You can picture a big elephant, right? And what's he doing? He's munching on an apple. You just understood that entire sentence simply by creating a mental image. That's visualization, and it is so powerful.
You are doing so great. Now it's time to put it all together and test out your new skills. This is just a little mini challenge to see how far you've already come.
Okay, here are 3 brand new sentences. In a moment, I want you to hit pause and try to understand them directly using all 3 of our techniques, okay? No translating. Go ahead and pause right now.
So, how did you do? Pretty cool, wasn't it? The most important thing to remember now is that this is a skill. It's a muscle. And just like any muscle, it gets stronger with consistent practice. So start with simple stuff. Children's books are great for this, or maybe simple news articles. And just keep at it. You'll be amazed at how quickly it starts to feel natural.
You officially have the tools to break that old translation habit and unlock a whole new world of French books, news, and culture. So, I guess my only question for you is, what amazing French story are you going to unlock first?
Hey there, and welcome. If you're ready to finally stop guessing and start actually reading in French, well, you've come to the right place. In just the next few minutes, we are going to unlock the single most important key to understanding basic French sentences. So let's dive right in.
Does this ever happen to you? You look at a French sentence, and it just feels like a jumble of words. You might even recognize a word or two, but figuring out what it all means, it's like trying to solve a puzzle without the picture on the box. Trust me, it's a super common feeling.
You might see something like this. Mange le chat la souris. Huh? Eats the cat the mouse eats the cat. It's really confusing. But what if I told you there's a simple, predictable pattern that can bring instant clarity? And that's right. There is a key, a foundational structure that's going to help you decode the vast majority of simple sentences you come across. And the best part is, it's wonderfully straightforward. And here it is. Subject plus verb plus object. That's it. This is pretty much the magic formula. You just need to find who is doing the action, what that action is, and then who or what is receiving that action. This simple order tells you the whole story.
Okay, so theory is great and all, but seeing it work is so much better. Let's take that jumbled up mess of words from before and apply our new key. You'll see, it's going to make perfect sense.
So let's break it down. Le chat is our subject. Who's doing it? The cat. Mange is our verb. What are they doing? Eating. And la souris is our object. What are they eating? The mouse. The cat eats the mouse. Simple, right? It's logical, and there's no more confusion.
So, from now on, this is your reading process. Every time you see a simple sentence, just ask yourself these three little questions in this order. Who's doing it? What are they doing? And to what? That's your roadmap. Let's try another one and see how this works. J'aime le chocolat. Okay, the subject is J, which is just a shortened je or I. The verb is aime, love. And the object? You got it. Le chocolat. I love chocolate. See? The pattern holds up perfectly.
Okay, so I've shown you how it works. Now it's time for us to do one together. I'm going to put a sentence up on the screen, and I want you to try to find the subject, the verb, and the object. You ready? Here it is. Le garçon lit un livre. Take a second. Look at it. Can you spot the three parts? Who is doing what to what?
So, how'd you do? The subject is le garçon, the boy. The verb is lit, which means reads, and the object is un livre, a book. The boy reads a book. See? You're already doing it. That's fantastic.
Let's go again. You are totally on a roll. Elle regarde un film. What's the subject, verb, and object here? You know the process. Go ahead, give it a shot. And the answer is subject, elle, or she, verb, regard, watches, object, un film, a movie. She watches a movie. Excellent work. This pattern is probably starting to feel like second nature now.
All right, you've seen it, we've practiced it, and now it's time for you to try one completely on your own. This is your challenge, but you are absolutely ready for this. You've got it. Okay, here is your sentence. Le chef prepare le soup. Take your time. Just apply that three-step process we've been using and figure out what this sentence means. I'll wait right here. And the moment of truth. The chef prepares the soup. The subject is le chef. The verb is préparer, and the object is la soupe. If you got that, give yourself a huge pat on the back. You just successfully decoded a French sentence all by yourself.
So let's just recap the big takeaway here. French isn't just a random bunch of words. Simple sentences follow a really predictable pattern: subject, verb, object. If you can find those three parts, you can understand the sentence. You now officially hold the key to reading in French.
You know, you started this explainer maybe seeing French as just a confusing jumble, but now you have this really powerful tool to bring order and meaning to it all. So the real question is, with this key in your hand, what French sentences, what stories, articles, and messages are you going to unlock next?
All right, let's dive right in. We're about to do a quick training session with one goal, and one goal only: to seriously boost your French reading speed starting today.
You know that feeling, right? You're trying to read something in French, and it just feels like you're trudging through mud. You know most of the words, but it's just
So slow. It can be incredibly frustrating.
But here's the thing. The problem probably isn't what you think it is. It's not about learning thousands of new, complicated words. The real roadblock is how fast you recognize the super simple, everyday words that make up the skeleton of the language.
Yeah, I call this the French reading roadblock. So let's take a closer look at what's actually slowing you down.
The secret weapon to get past this roadblock is something called high-frequency words. These are all the little words, the glue that holds sentences together. Words like and, but, for, in. They're not fancy, but they are literally everywhere.
And get this is the part that's kind of mind-blowing. Just the top 100 most common words in French make up about 50% of all written text. Half. So you can see why mastering just these few words is the ultimate shortcut to reading faster.
So, what's the game plan? It's simple. We are going to unlock your reading speed by making these core words second nature.
Our goal for this session is to build automaticity. That's a fancy word that just means you see these words and you instantly know what they mean. No more translating in your head, no hesitation. You just see it and you know it.
Okay, it's time to build your first arsenal. We're going to arm you with 3 of these powerhouse words right now.
Our first word is avec. It's super common, super simple, and it means with. Say it to yourself, avec. Now let's see it in the wild.
Le chat joue avec la balle. The cat plays with the ball.
See how it just connects the pieces? It's simple, but totally essential.
All right, word number 2 is dans. This one means in. Dans.
And here it is in a sentence. Le livre est dans le sac. The book is in the bag. A perfect, simple example of how it shows location.
And for our third word in this little starter kit, we have pour. This one means for. Pour.
And a simple example, un cadeau pour toi, a gift for you. This word shows purpose. Okay, so you've got avec, dans, and pour. They're officially in your toolkit.
All right, you're equipped. Now it's time for a rapid recognition drill. We're shifting from learning to doing. The only goal here is speed. Don't think, just find the word.
First up, your mission is to find the word avec in the sentence that's about to pop up. You ready? Let's do this.
Je vais au parc avec mon ami. There it is. I'm going to the park with my friend. See? Your brain is already starting to pick it out faster. Excellent work.
Let's keep the momentum going. Next one, find the word pour. On your mark, get set.
Cette lettre est pour le professeur. And bam, right there. This letter is for the teacher. You feel that? You're getting quicker. That's your brain literally building that automaticity we talked about.
Okay, you've learned the words, you've drilled them. Now it's time for the final challenge. This is where you get to see just how much progress you've made in only a few minutes. The rules are simple. I'm going to show you a sentence using our new words. Just read it at your own pace and notice how quickly the meaning clicks into place. After a moment, I'll reveal the translation. All right, here it is. Take a moment, let your brain do its thing, spot those core words we practiced. There's dans, there's pour, and the meaning is, the coffee in the cup is for you. So how'd you do? I bet you understood that sentence way faster than you would have 5 minutes ago. That's because you weren't translating word by word. You were recognizing the core structure almost instantly. That's the win.
And that right there is the whole strategy. It's a simple but really powerful path to reading fluency. You identify the most common words, you practice them in easy sentences, and then you drill for speed. That's it.
So, you have the method now. The only question is, what will you do with it? Don't stop here. Find a list of the top French words, pick the next 10, and just keep building that arsenal. Your future fluent self is going to thank you for it.
Okay, let's dive right into this. If you've ever tried to teach anything, a new concept at work, a skill to your kids, even just a complicated idea to a friend, you've probably hit that same wall. How do you get someone to move past just, memorizing words and actually have that aha moment of real understanding? Right? This is the million-dollar question for pretty much every teacher, content creator, or manager out there. It's the huge difference between information that just goes in one ear and right out the other, and knowledge that actually sticks, knowledge that becomes useful. So we stumbled onto something amazing. We found this powerful blueprint, kind of hidden inside a lesson plan for teaching French. Now, I know what you're thinking. French? I don't teach French. But stick with me here, because the genius of this thing has nothing to do with language. It is a universal template for teaching anything effectively. So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at the big challenge. Then we'll dive into the 6-step blueprint itself, how to grab attention, build real understanding, and then make it stick. And finally, we'll talk about how you can use it. Sound good? Okay, part 1, the comprehension challenge. This is all about that gap, right? The gap between knowing the individual words on a page and actually getting the wisdom. Seeing how all the pieces click together to make a bigger picture. And that brings us right to part 2, a 6-step blueprint. This is the secret sauce, the solution, because this lesson plan lays out this incredibly clear journey that takes a learner from feeling totally lost to feeling completely confident. And here it is. 6 simple steps. Hook, intro, paragraph, breakdown, practice, and challenge. Now, this isn't just some random list, okay? It's a super smart psychological sequence that's designed to build knowledge in a way that just makes sense to our brains. Let's break it down. All right, let's kick it off with part 3, grab their attention. And this is absolutely crucial. If you don't get this first step right, honestly, the rest of the lesson doesn't even matter. So what even is a hook? Well, think of it as your opening move. It's that one compelling question, that surprising fact, or that super short story that makes someone lean in and go, okay, tell me more. It sparks curiosity and literally opens up their mind to learning before you've even started teaching. Okay, you've got them hooked. Now for the real meat of it, part 4. Build understanding, piece by piece. We're going to go from the whole big picture down to the individual parts. And trust me, the order we do this in is everything. Now, this next step might feel a little backwards, but it is so powerful. Before you explain a single detail, you show them the whole thing first. The full paragraph, the final equation, the finished product. Psychologically, this is a game changer. It gives the learner a mental map. They see the destination, so their brain is primed and ready to organize all the little details you're about to give them. It just lowers the stress and gives them context right from the start. And then comes the breakdown. See, after you've shown them the whole, you start taking it apart, piece by piece. The source calls this a line-by-line explanation, and this table just brilliantly illustrates the method. You're not just defining single words, you're explaining whole chunks and phrases right where they belong. You're just methodically wiping out any chance for confusion. The goal here is absolute, crystal clarity at every single step. So they've seen the big picture, and now they understand all the little parts. For part 5, we need to make the knowledge stick. What's the point if they forget it all by tomorrow, right? These last 2 steps are all about moving from just practicing to really mastering the concept. First up is practice. This is about getting comfortable, building confidence. In the French lesson example, it's just reading the text out loud. It's about reinforcement. Then, after they're comfortable, you hit them with the challenge. This is the little test. It's a simple question that makes them actually apply what they just learned, proving to themselves and to you that they really truly get it. Which brings us to our final section, part 6, your turn to teach. We've taken this whole thing apart. Now let's talk about why this is such an incredible tool for you. Whether you're making a YouTube video, leading a team meeting, or just trying to explain something to a friend. So why does this blueprint just work? Well, because it follows the natural way our brains learn. It creates this perfect logical flow. It builds up their confidence step by step, and it shifts them from being a passive listener to an active learner. And maybe the best part, it's adaptable to literally any topic, from coding to cooking to quantum physics. So the big takeaway here is really simple. You don't have to guess at how to structure your content anymore. You now have a proven, step-by-step framework to turn any complicated subject into a lesson that is not just clear, but genuinely engaging and seriously effective. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Now that you have the 6-step blueprint, what complex, maybe intimidating, or just plain messy idea are you going to be the one to finally make simple?
Hey there. So, let's talk about French pronunciation. It can be a real headache, right? Well, today, I'm going to show you a super simple trick that is honestly a game changer for how you sound.
You know that feeling, right? Where you're reading a French sentence, you totally get what it means, but then you try to say the words out loud and something's just off. It's so frustrating, but trust me, you are so not alone in feeling that way.
So what's the big secret here? How do you get the words from your brain to come out of your mouth sounding, French? Well, it's actually something really simple. We're going to use reading aloud. Yeah, that's it. It's an incredibly powerful tool for sounding more natural and confident.
Now, I don't just mean reading in your head. This is an active practice. Think of it like taking your mouth to the gym. You're literally training your tongue and your throat muscles to make these new sounds. It's all about building that muscle memory so your mouth just knows what to do when it sees a certain spelling.
All right, so how do we actually do this? It's super simple. Just 3 steps. Step 1, read the text silently. Just figure out what it means, no stress. Step 2, read it out loud, and this time, forget about the meaning. Your only job is to focus on the sounds. And step 3, this is the magic step. Find those words that are giving you trouble, pull them out, and we're going to work on them nice and slow.
Okay, that's enough talk. Let's actually see it in action. I'll go first, so you can see exactly what I mean.
So here's our sentence, a pretty common one. Just listen to how it sounds. Je voudrais un croissant.
Okay, so applying our little technique here, let's zoom in on the tricky word. And you probably guessed it, it's croissant.
And see, this is why isolating words is so good. The tough part here is that famous, or maybe infamous, French R. It's not like our English R where your tongue is up at the front. Nope. This sound comes from the back of your throat. It's like a little vibration, almost like you're about to gargle, but way, way softer. It's more of an airy, breathy sound. So let's break it down. First, that craw sound, croix. Can you hear that little gargle in the back? Croix. Good. The second part is sans. Notice the T is totally silent. So put them together, croissant. Croissant. Let's try the whole sentence again. Je voudrais un croissant. All right, you saw how it works. Now it's your turn. Let's do this together. And seriously, say it out loud. It's the only way this works. Ready?
Okay, here's our first one. I'll say it. You just listen for now. C'est une bonne idée.
So the word that trips people up here is usually bonne. A lot of us want to say bonnet, right? Really hit that ne at the end. But in French, it's actually a short nasal on sound. Think more like bun, bun. That little ne is really just there to tell us that idée is a feminine word. You don't really pronounce it strongly.
Okay, let's just practice that one word. I'll say it, then I'll pause, and you say it right after me. Okay? Here we go. Bone. Nice. Let's go again. Bone.
Awesome, you're getting it. Let's try another one. This one's got some fun vowels. Just listen.
Il y a beaucoup de monde.
Okay, let's demystify this big one, beaucoup. It looks kind of scary, but it follows some simple rules. So see that O? Whenever you see that in French, it's just going to sound like the O in boat. And the OO, that's like the OO in soup. And the best part, that P at the end, totally silent. It's just a leftover from older French. So it's simply beaucoup.
Okay, your turn to try it. Just that word. Ready? Beaucoup. One more time. Beaucoup.
Yes! That was great. See, when you just break it down into little pieces and repeat it, it's not so intimidating, right? That's exactly how you build that muscle memory we were talking about.
All right, you're warmed up. You've been practicing. Now, it's time for the final challenge. Let's see if you can put it all together.
Here we go. This sentence is a bit longer, has a few of those tricky sounds. I want you to try reading this out loud on your own first. Go ahead. I'll wait a few seconds.
Okay, you ready? Now listen to me say it and see how you did. Le gouvernement a annoncé plusieurs nouvelles règles. How'd it go? Did you catch that R in gouvernement and règle? What about all the nasal sounds? That's a tough one for sure.
So let's do a super quick recap of the big takeaways here. First, reading aloud is the bridge that connects what you see to what you say. Second, grab those tricky words and practice them by themselves. It's your secret weapon. Third, repetition, repetition, repetition. It's how you build that automatic muscle memory. And finally, don't worry about being perfect. Just be consistent. That's what really matters.
Okay, so what now? Well, this whole technique only works if you actually do it. So I've got a question for you. What is just one, French word that you're going to practice this week using this method? Pick one.
and really focus on it. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. Happy practicing. Let's talk about one of the biggest, most annoying hurdles in learning a new language. You know what I'm talking about. But what if we could turn that hurdle into your new superpower? Today, we're going to do just that. We're going to learn how to become a confident reader even when you don't know every single word. So, get ready to do a little investigating.
We've all been there. You're reading something in a new language, you're in the zone, everything's flowing, and then bam, you hit it. A single, unfamiliar word that just stops you dead in your tracks. It's like running into a brick wall. All that momentum, gone.
I mean, isn't that the most frustrating feeling? Your brain is working, you're understanding the story, and then one word just brings the whole operation to a screeching halt. Your comprehension just evaporates. Look, this is a totally normal part of the process, but constantly stopping to look things up in a dictionary, it breaks your focus, it's not great for remembering things, and honestly, it's just slow. But what if I told you that you already have what you need to solve these little mysteries, and just keep reading? That is exactly what we're going to unlock today. I want you to start thinking of yourself less like a student and more like a language detective. Your mission is to uncover the meaning that's hiding in plain sight.
And you know, every good detective needs a process, right? Well, here's ours. It's a really simple 5-step method. First, you spot the mystery word. Then, you scan the area around it, the sentence. You hunt for clues, you make an educated guess, and then, and this is the most important part, you just keep reading with confidence. That's it. The secret to this whole thing is one super powerful tool: context clues. Just think of these as the evidence. They're the fingerprints, the footprints, the little hints left behind in the sentence that point you right to the meaning of your mystery word.
All right, detective, it is time to open up your kit. Let's get familiar with the specific types of clues, the kinds of evidence you're going to be looking for when you're on a case.
Okay, the first clue type is the easiest one to spot. This is when the text basically just hands you the answer. It's the definition or synonym clue, where the sentence itself just flat out tells you what the word means. Let's see this in action. Take a look at the evidence on the left. Even if you have absolutely no idea what feline means, look at what comes right after it. The sentence tells you it's an animal from the family of lions and tigers. The definition is literally built right in. So, we know feline means feline. Case closed.
Now, our next tool is a little more subtle, but it's just as powerful. This one is all about using pure logic. Specifically, keeping an eye out for words that tell you there's a contrast or an opposite coming up.
Okay, check this one out. The sentence mentions it's not chaud, which means hot, but the magic words here are au contraire, on the contrary. That's our big clue. It's like a giant flashing sign telling us that whatever froid is, it's the opposite of hot. So froid must mean cold. See? The sentence structure solved the mystery for us.
Okay, detective, you've got your tools, you've seen how they work. Now it's time to get your hands dirty. Let's solve your very first case together.
Here is the evidence. Go ahead and read this little paragraph. The mystery word is marché. Now pay really close attention to what Marie is doing in the sentence, and especially to the items that are mentioned. Go on, gather your clues.
All right, what do you think? Look at the clues. What is Marie buying? And where would you typically go to buy those kinds of things? Go ahead and make your educated guess right now. I'll give you a second.
Okay, let's review the evidence together. Clue number 1. We know Marie buys things there. Elle achète. Clue number 2. We know exactly what she's buying. Vegetables, fruits, cheese. So what kind of place do you go to buy fresh food like that? A market. Marché means market. See, you totally solved that without a dictionary.
That was fantastic work on your first case. You're a natural. But now it's time for the final challenge. This is for your official detective's badge. This time, you're taking the lead on the investigation.
So here it is, your final case file. The unknown word is frugal. Read the text carefully and really zero in on the description that comes right after the word. The answer is hiding right there in the details. You got this. Okay, detective, it's all on you now. Based on the evidence here, the description of Jean's meal, what does frugal most likely mean? Take a moment and crack the case. All right, let's see the final report. So, what was our biggest clue here? It was the description that came right after the word frugal, wasn't it? Just a black coffee and a slice of bread. Now, is that some huge fancy breakfast? No way. It's super simple, very small. So frugal clearly means simple or modest. Excellent work.
And this, right here, is the most important thing I want you to take away from all of this. Let it really sink in. You do not need to know every single word to understand what you're reading. Reading is about understanding the bigger picture, not translating word for word. And now, you have the skills to do exactly that.
So that's it. You've officially graduated from the academy. You're a language detective. The next time you hit one of those word walls, you're not going to feel stuck. You're going to feel a challenge. You're going to see a mystery to solve. So the only question left is, what are you going to go out and discover next?
Have you ever been there, standing in front of a gorgeous French cafe, staring at the menu and having absolutely no idea what's going on? Or that awkward moment at a shop door where you're not sure if you should push or pull? Well, today we're going to crack that code. Let's get right into it. Okay, picture this. You walk up to a door and you see this one little word, tires. Just 5 letters, but it can lead to that super awkward door dance if you get it wrong. What's your gut feeling? Push or pull? We'll get back to this one, I promise. And that's really our whole mission here. We're going to take that moment of hesitation and flip it into pure confidence, so you can walk around France and feel like you know what you're doing. First stop is maybe the most important one for any trip, the restaurant. Let's break down a French menu, because trust me, ordering delicious food without stress is a total game changer. All right, if you learn only one single phrase for eating out in France, please make it this one: le plat du jour. You are going to see this on chalkboards outside little bistros everywhere. It's a must-know. So yeah, it literally translates to dish of the day. But it is so much more than that. Think of it as a cultural signpost. It's basically the chef saying, this is what's amazing and fresh from the market today, and this is what I'm really proud of. It's almost always an incredible deal and super delicious. Now let's look at how the whole menu is built. It's actually beautifully simple. You start with the entree, and here's a huge tip. This is the appetizer, not the main course. So many people get that wrong. After that comes the plat, which is your main dish, and you finish with dessert. So, entree, plat, dessert. That's your roadmap. Simple, right? Okay, we've eaten, we're happy, now it's time to hit the streets. And you know what? The same logic of looking for keywords works out here too. It's maybe even a little easier than a menu. And this is where learning opposites is your superpower. If you know entree is the entrance, well, you can probably guess that sortie is the exit. Same thing with ouvert for open and fermé for closed. Just knowing these pairs will get you in and out of pretty much any building. So the idea is to build this little mental toolkit of survival words. Toilettes, yeah, that one's pretty important, right? Sold, that's a shopper's best friend. And hey, look at that. There they are. Pousser for push and tirer for pull. So that sign from the very beginning, tirer means pull. Okay, you've seen the basics. Now it's your turn. Let's do a little pop quiz to see what you've picked up. I'm going to show you a couple of signs. You tell me what's going on. You ready for this? All right, you're walking down a beautiful street in Paris, and you see this word plastered all over a shop window. What does it mean? Think back to that list. Yes, you got it. Solds means there's a sale happening. That's your sign to get in there and maybe find a bargain. Nicely done. Okay, next up. You just finished at a cool museum and you're ready to head out. You see 2 doors with these 2 signs above them. Which one do you follow to get out?
Exactly! You follow sortie to find the exit. If you go through the entree door, you're just going right back in for another lap. You're getting the hang of this.
And think about it, just like that, in only a few minutes, you've learned the keys to understanding the 3 most common types of real-life French you're going to see out there: menus, doors, and shop signs. So if there's one thing to remember from all this, it's this. You do not need to be fluent to figure things out. It's not about perfection. It's about spotting those keywords, plat du jour, sortie, soldes, and using them to understand what's going on. They're like little clues to solve the puzzle. So we'll end on this thought. You now have the basic keys to unlock real-world French. The question isn't if you can read the signs anymore, it's where are you going to go to read them? Paris? Marseille? Lyon? That adventure is totally up to you.
All right, welcome. For the next 5 minutes, I want you to think of this less like a lesson and more like a high-intensity workout for your brain. We're going to build up those French reading muscles, help you get way faster, understand a whole lot more, and finally feel like you're actually fluent when you're looking at the page. Okay, let's jump right in.
Does this look familiar? You know, you're staring at a sentence and your brain is just doing this super slow, painful math problem. Okay, le is the, chat means cat. It is absolutely exhausting, and by the time you've managed to translate every single word, you've totally lost the plot of the sentence. This is, without a doubt, the #1 thing that holds learners back.
But here's the good news. This is just a habit, and like any bad habit, we can break it and build a new, much better one in its place. And that's exactly what we're starting today. We're going to retrain your brain to see a French sentence and just get it, to grasp the idea immediately, completely skipping that slow-motion translation step.
So, before we get to the drills, let's take 1 second to figure out the problem. Why do our brains even do this? Because understanding the why is really the first step to fixing the how.
Look, most of us start out in that column on the left. It's slow, it's tiring, and we're totally stuck in that word-for-word translation mode. Our goal today is to get you into the column on the right. We want reading to be fast, efficient, where your brain just soaks up the main idea directly, and we're going to start making that switch right now.
All right, enough theory, right? It's time for the workout. We've got 3 core drills that are designed to build that reading for meaning muscle. So let's get to it. Here is our game plan for today. It's a really simple 3-step process. First, we are going to consciously decide to stop translating. Second, we're going to train ourselves to be detectives and hunt for the core idea. And third, we're going to learn to trust the clues around the words we don't know. Let's get into that first drill. Okay, drill number 1. Now, this one is huge. Seriously, it's the foundation for everything else we're going to do. It's a mental shift that might feel a little strange at first, but trust me, it is absolutely essential if you want to get faster. So what does this actually look like in practice? It means when you see the French word chien, you instantly picture a dog in your head. You don't say the word dog to yourself. The whole point is to forge a direct link between the French word and the actual thing, cutting out the middleman, which is your native language. This right here is how you truly start thinking in French.
Okay, on to drill number 2. So if we're not supposed to be focusing on every single little word, what should we be focusing on? Well, we're going to become detectives, hunting for the most important clues in every single sentence.
It's actually pretty simple. When you first look at a sentence, your only job is to find these 3 things. Who or what is this about? That's your subject. What are they doing? That's your verb. And what key things are involved? Those are your nouns. That's it. Forget the adjectives, adverbs, all those tiny connecting words. Just for now. We're just looking for the skeleton of the sentence. And now for our final core drill. This is where you learn to let go of being perfect and you start to take a few little risks. You have to start trusting that you have enough information to make a really good, educated guess. This is your new mantra. I want you to burn this into your brain. The next time you see a word you don't know, don't panic, don't immediately reach for the dictionary, just keep reading. Look at the words you do know. Can you make a pretty good guess? 9 times out of 10, you can absolutely get the gist without knowing that one specific word. Remember, comprehension is the goal, not a perfect vocabulary score.
All right, the warm-up is officially over. It is time to put these drills to work. We're going to do a quick 60-second reading sprint. Get ready.
Okay, here's the deal. On the next screen, you're going to see a short paragraph. Your mission is very simple. Read it through 1 time, do not stop, do not translate. Just scan for the subject, the verb, and the main idea. You've got 1 minute. Your time starts now. Keep scanning. Just get the main idea. About 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, time's up. Don't look back at the text. Just from that quick scan, what was it about? Did you get a feel for the story? Even if you missed a few words. That feeling, that sense of just getting the gist, that is exactly what we are training for.
That was excellent work. You just proved to yourself that you can do this. So for our final challenge, we're going to do it one more time, but with a slightly trickier text to really test out your new skills.
Here we go. Another paragraph, another 60-second sprint. But this time, I want you to pay close attention to the overall feeling or the emotion of the text. You ready? Let's go.
And time is up. Okay, take a look at these options. Based on your quick read, which one of these best captures the author's main feeling? See, you don't have to understand every single word to answer this. It's all about grabbing the tone and the context. Did you get it? And just breathe.
The main workout is done. You did a fantastic job. So now let's talk about the cool down. How do you take this little 5-minute drill and turn it into a lifelong habit that will completely change the way you read French? Here are the 4 big things to remember. First, drill. Don't translate. Make it an active choice every time you read. Second, scan for the core. Become that sentence detective. Third, always remember that context is your friend. Trust your gut. And finally, practice in sprints. 5 minutes of focused, timed reading every day will do more for you than an hour of slow, painful translating ever could.
So, you've done the training, you have the tools, and you've already proven to yourself that you can do it. The only question left is, what are you going to read first? Go find a short news article, a blog post, maybe the first chapter of a book, and put these new skills to the test tonight. Happy reading!
Hey, welcome! So, have you ever stared at a super long French sentence and just felt completely lost? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to learn a simple, really powerful method that will help you read pretty much any complex French sentence with confidence. Let's get started.
You know, for so many of us learning French, we hit this wall. You're reading, it's all making sense, and then bam! You run into a sentence that just seems to stretch on forever, packed with commas and side thoughts. It really can feel like you're trying to find your way through a maze.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You see a sentence that takes up 3, maybe 4 lines, and your brain just kind of goes, nope. You might know all the words individually, but figuring out how they fit together feels next to impossible.
Just look at this one. La jeune fille qui aime beaucoup les livres anciens va souvent à la bibliothèque le week-end pour trouver de nouvelles histoires fascinantes. Whoa, that's a mouthful. And yeah, at first glance, it looks pretty intimidating. But I promise you, there is a very, very simple way to figure this out.
So here's the secret. It's not about memorizing more words. It's about having the right strategy, the right toolkit. And I'm going to give you a simple 4-step process that you can use every single time to cut right through the confusion. And here it is. This is basically your master key. First, we're going to hunt for the action words, the verbs. Second, we figure out who or what is actually doing that action. That's the subject. Third, and this is the magic part, we strip away all the fluff to find the core meaning. And finally, we add all those extra details back in to get the full picture. Okay, so that's the theory. But let's see how this thing actually works in practice. We're going to go back to that monster sentence from before, and I'll walk you through how to break it down step by step.
All right, here it is again. La jeune fille qui aime beaucoup les livres anciens va souvent à la bibliothèque le week-end pour trouver de nouvelles histoires fascinantes. Okay, deep breath. Don't let it scare you. Just think of it like a puzzle we're about to solve. Ready? Let's do this.
Okay, step 1, let's find the verbs, the action words. If we scan through the sentence, 2 of them pop out pretty quick. Aime, which means loves, and va, which means goes. These are our anchor points.
Now for step 2, let's match those verbs to their subjects. Who loves? Well, the word right before it, qui, which means who, and it's pointing right back to the girl. And who goes? La jeune fille, the young girl. So we have our 2 actions and the people doing them, but only one of these is the main event.
And this is the most important step. What is the real main action of this sentence? That whole part about qui aime, the who loves old books part, that's just extra information describing the girl. The main thing she is doing is going somewhere. So if we take our main subject, la jeune fille, and our main verb, va, the core of the sentence is just, the girl goes to the library. See? Simple, right?
Okay, final step. Let's layer all that flavor back in. That little clause, qui aime beaucoup les livres anciens, it just tells us more about the girl. She's the one who loves old books. And the rest of the sentence? That tells us when she goes, on the weekend, and why, to find fascinating new stories. It all just adds color to that simple core idea. Awesome! Now that you've seen me do it, let's try one together. Here's our next sentence. Même si le temps est mauvais, les enfants jouent joyeusement dans le jardin avec le nouveau ballon rouge. It looks a little bit different, but trust me, the exact same rules apply. All right, so let's start with step 1 again. Take a look. Can you find the 2 verbs, the 2 action words in this sentence? I'll give you a second to look for them. Did you get them? The first one is est, which means is, and the second one is joue, meaning are playing. If you spotted those, awesome. You are totally on the right track. Perfect. So, what is? Le temps,
the weather. And who are playing? Les enfants, the children. So which one is the main event here? Well, that first part, même si le temps est mauvais, even if the weather is bad, that's just setting the scene. The real action is what the kids are doing. So the core meaning is simply, the children are playing. Everything else, in the garden, with the red ball, in bad weather, it's all just extra detail.
All right. You've seen me do one, we've done one together, now it's your turn. I'm going to give you one final challenge sentence. You can totally do this. You've got the tools.
Okay, here we go. Le chat noir qui dort toujours sur le canapé gris se réveille soudainement parce qu'il entend un bruit étrange dans la cuisine. Yeah, it's got a few moving parts in there, a few extra details packed in. But don't rush, just use those 4 steps we've been practicing.
I want you to really focus on finding the core of the sentence. Look past all the descriptions. What is the one main subject, and what is the one main action that subject is taking? What's the engine that drives this whole sentence? Take a moment.
So, did you find it? The main subject is le chat noir, the black cat, and its main verb is se réveille, he wakes up. That whole part about qui dort just tells us where the cat was sleeping, and the parce qu'il entend part explains why he woke up. But the absolute main event is le chat se réveille, the cat wakes up. If you found that, seriously, congratulations. You just decoded a really complex sentence.
So let's wrap this up. What you've picked up today isn't just a clever trick, it is a genuine skill. Honestly, you should think of it as your new superpower for reading French.
Here's the big takeaway. No matter how long or tangled a French sentence seems, it's always built around a simple core. Your job is just to be a detective. Find that verb and its subject, uncover the main idea, and then just layer the details back in to get the whole story. You now have the toolkit to take on any sentence that comes your way.
This really does open up a whole new world of reading, everything from news articles to classic literature. So the only real question left is, what incredible French story are you going to dive into and decode first? Thanks so much for watching.
You know that feeling, right? You're reading in French, everything's going great, and then bam, a sentence pops up that just looks weird. It stops you dead in your tracks. Well, it happens to literally everyone. Today, we're going to crack the code on French questions so you can get back to reading smoothly. Let's do this. So you see something like this. Aimez-vous le chocolat? You know, all the words, love, you, chocolate, but the order feels kind of backward, right? This little flip is one of the most common things that trips people up when they're learning.
But here's the secret. It's not random. It's just a pattern. And in the next few minutes, we are going to completely demystify these patterns so you can spot them from a mile away. I actually like to think of them as 3 secret codes. Once you know what they are, you unlock this whole new level of confidence in your reading. It's a total game changer.
So what are these codes? First, we have rising intonation, which for us readers just means looking for a question mark. Simple. Second is a super useful little phrase, est-ce que. And the third one, the one we saw at the very beginning, is called inversion. We're going to tackle them one by one.
All right, let's go on a little safari and see what these patterns look like out in the wild, in actual sentences. We'll start with the easiest one of the bunch.
Okay, so the simplest, most common way to ask a question in spoken French is to just make it sound like a question. In writing, all that changes is the punctuation. The statement, tu parles français, becomes a question just by swapping that period for a question mark. That's it. Code number 1, unlocked.
Now for our second code. I want you to think of the phrase est-ce que as a big, bright flag at the start of a sentence. It's waving at you, saying, hey, pay attention, a question is coming.
Now, est-ce que literally translates to something like, is it that, which sounds a bit strange to us. But its real job is just to signal a yes or no question. And the best part, it does this without changing the normal sentence order at all. It's super common and a really clear signpost.
See how clean this is? You take that original statement, tu parles français, and you just pop est-ce que right on the front. Boom. Done. The word order stays exactly the same, but now it's unmistakably a question.
And now for our third and final code, inversion. I like to call this the formal flip. This is the one you're going to see a lot in books, in articles, and any time the language is a bit more formal. It involves, well, a little flip.
And here's that flip in action. The verb parles has literally jumped in front of the subject tu, and you see they're connected with a little hyphen.
This is the exact same structure we saw in that very first slide with aimez-vous le chocolat. Verb first, then the subject. That's inversion.
Of course, not all questions are simple yes or no. But the good news is, all three of these patterns work perfectly with our usual question words. Who, what, where, when, why. These words just hang out at the very beginning of the sentence.
For example, take où, which means where. You could easily see où est-ce que tu habites, or that more formal inverted version, où habites-tu. The question word just leads the charge, and the pattern we already know follows right behind it.
Okay, theory is one thing, but practice is where it all starts to click. So now it's your turn. Put on your detective hat, and let's see if you can spot these patterns in a couple of short texts.
Okay, here's our first case file. Marie aime le café. Elle va au café tous les matins. Pretty straightforward, right?
Now here's the question for you. Qu'est-ce que Marie aime? I'll give you a second. Got it? Of course, it's le café. And hey, look at the question itself. Qu'est-ce que is just a version of our friendly est-ce que flag, used here to ask what.
All right, let's try one more. Pierre étudie à Paris. Pourquoi étudie-t-il à Paris? Pour apprendre le français.
Okay, let's zoom in on the question here. Pourquoi étudie-t-il à Paris? Which of our three codes do you see? If you look at étudie-t-il, what do you see? The verb-subject flip. That's our formal code. Inversion, in action.
You're getting this so fast. This is awesome. Okay, for our final reading challenge, we're going to put it all together and look at a slightly longer text that uses more than one question form. You ready? Let's break this down. We actually see two different question types right in this little paragraph. First up, qu'en dessine-t-elle? See that verb-subject flip? That's inversion, our formal code, kicked off by the question word when. And then look at the second one, est-ce qu'il visite le Louvre? And there's our good friend, the est-ce que flag, right at the beginning. It just shows how these patterns mix and mingle naturally in French writing.
So let's quickly recap your new French question toolkit. It's basically a 3-point checklist. When you're reading, first, just look for the question mark. That's intonation. Second, scan the beginning of the sentence for that est-ce que flag. And third, keep your eyes peeled for that verb-subject flip, which we now know is called inversion.
And just like that, you've done it. You've cracked the codes. These things that might have seemed strange or confusing before, they're not mysteries anymore. They're just patterns. And now you know exactly what to look for.
So really, the only question left is, with these new skills in your back pocket, are you ready to pick up that French book or article with way more confidence than you had before? You absolutely should be. Happy reading!
Hey, welcome! In this explainer, we are going to unlock a skill that will completely change the way you read in French. Seriously, it's going to make it faster, way more fun, and honestly, a lot more effective. Let's jump right in.
So does this feel familiar? You've got a French book in one hand, your phone or a dictionary in the other, and you're stopping every single sentence to look something up. It is so frustrating, right? It just breaks your flow and turns reading, which should be fun, into a total chore. I like to call this the dictionary trap. It feels like you're doing the right thing, like you're being super thorough. But what's actually happening is you're slowing yourself down and you're keeping your brain from learning one of the most important skills in any language, figuring things out from context. I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got that slow, frustrating cycle. You look up a word, you forget it 5 minutes later. But on the right, that's a whole different world. It's fluent, it's engaging, and you actually remember the new words because your brain did the work to figure them out. And this brings us to a really crucial mindset shift. The goal is not to know every single word on the page. It's to understand the story, to get the main idea. You don't need to inspect every single brick to know you're looking at a house, right? It's all about the big picture.
So how do we escape this trap? How do we get to that more enjoyable way of reading? Well, it's actually way simpler than you might think. You just need 2 basic tools in your reading toolkit. Let's see what they are.
That's it. I'm serious. That is the whole secret. First, you just look at the words you already know that are sitting around the word you don't. And then you use that information to make a logical, educated guess. You're basically becoming a language detective.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but practice is where the magic really happens. We're going to walk through a couple of examples together right now so you can see for yourself just how powerful this technique really is.
All right, here's our first sentence. Le chat est sur le toit de la maison. Now, let's just pretend for a second you have absolutely no idea what toi means.
Okay, let's put on our detective hats. What clues do we have? We know le chat is the cat. We know la maison is the house. So, the cat is on the something of the house. Take a second. What's your guess?
Boom, a twait is a roof. See? You didn't need a dictionary. The clues, the cat, the house, they led you straight to the answer. Your brain made the connection all by itself. That's awesome.
Great job. You are already getting the hang of this. So let's try another one. Here we go. Elle mange une pomme rouge.
All right, detective, what are our clues? You probably know elle mange means she eats, and you definitely know rouge means red. So she's eating something and it's red. What's a common food that's red?
Of course. A pomme is an apple. See how that works? You're not just guessing wildly. You're using logic. You're connecting the dots. And that act of connecting the dots is what actually cements the word in your memory. Okay, you've practiced with me, you've seen how it works. Now it's time for you to fly solo. This is your final challenge just to prove to yourself that you can absolutely do this.
Just take a breath. You have the tools. You know the strategy. You've totally got this. Here we go.
Okay, the sentence is Le facteur apporte une lettre importante. The mystery word this time is facteur. So what are the clues? Apporter means brings, and lettre means letter. So someone brings an important letter. Who does that? Go ahead and pause right here and make your best educated guess. And we're back! How did you do? If you guessed mail carrier or postman, you are 100% correct. A factor is a mail carrier. The clues, brings, and letter made it pretty much the only logical choice. Fantastic work! So, let's just take a step back. What did we just do here? Well, you've just unlocked a language learning superpower. And I'm not exaggerating. This isn't just a small tip. It's a fundamental change in how you can approach reading forever. From this point on, you're going to be able to read faster and so much more smoothly. You're going to build your vocabulary naturally without having to do endless flashcards. And maybe the best part, you'll finally be able to just relax and enjoy the story.
Because when you get right down to it, what you've really built today is confidence. The confidence to know you don't have to be perfect, the confidence to trust your own brain, and the confidence to pick up any French text and just give it a go. That is the real key that unlocks fluency.
So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. An entire world of French books, news articles, and stories is now open to you in a brand new way. The only question left is, what story are you going to unlock first?
Hey there! If you've ever tried to read a book or an article in French, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're getting into it, you're in the flow, and then, bam! You hit a word you don't know. So you stop, pull out your phone or a dictionary, and the whole rhythm is just gone. Well, today we're going to talk about a really powerful technique that will help you read French way faster and with a lot more confidence. I mean, it's a story I hear all the time, right? You get super excited to dive into a French novel, but you end up feeling like you're spending more time on Google Translate than actually reading. Every time you have to stop, it just pulls you right out of the story. It's so frustrating, and honestly, it's one of the biggest things that makes people give up. But here's the secret, and this is a game changer. Fluent readers, even in their own native language, do not know every single word they come across. No way. The real magic isn't about having a gigantic vocabulary, it's about having the right strategy. It's about learning to read like a detective. I like to call this feeling the reading roadblock. You know, it's that mental wall you hit when you're looking at a page of French text and it all just feels so slow and overwhelming, kind of like a chore. Well, today, we're going to smash right through that wall. Okay, so let's get into it. Your new secret weapon is a skill that pretty much all experienced language learners use, a lot of the time without even thinking about it. This is a technique that's going to transform you from someone who just passively reads words into an active participant in the story. And we call this skill predicting meaning. Now hold on, this isn't about just taking a wild guess and hoping for the best. It's a strategic skill. You're using the context, all the words you do know around the mystery word, to make a really smart, educated guess about the one you don't. It's all about using clues to unlock the meaning, and you'll be shocked at how much it speeds things up. Honestly, the best way to think about this is to put on your detective hat. Every sentence is a little scene, and that unknown word, that's the mystery you have to solve. Your job is to look around for clues, piece together the evidence, and crack the case. It makes reading active, and you know what? It's actually a lot of fun.
So how do you actually do it? It's a super simple 3-step process. First, you just isolate the word. Don't panic, just spot it. Second, you scan the rest of the sentence for clues. What are the other nouns, the verb, the adjectives telling you? And finally, step 3. Based on all that evidence, you make your best, most logical guess. That's it.
Let's try it out right now. Take a look at this sentence. Dans le parc, le chien poursuit la blank rouge. Okay, step 1. Our mystery is that blank space. Step 2, let's find our clues. We've got parc, which means park. We have chien, which is dog. Poursuit means chases, and rouge is red. So, a dog in a park is chasing something red. All right, step 3, let's make a guess. What could it be? A red car? Nah, not likely in a park. A red cat? Maybe. But what's a classic thing a dog chases? Probably a balle, a ball. A dog chases a red ball in the park. See? You just solved it. No dictionary needed. Okay, you saw how that works. Pretty cool, right? Now it's time to get your hands dirty. Let's work through another example together, and you can be the detective this time. All right, check this out. L'alpiniste a finalement atteint le sommet de la montagne. So our mystery word is sommet. What are our clues? Well, alpiniste looks a whole lot like alpinist or mountain climber, right? And montagne is pretty clearly mountain. So a mountain climber finally reached the sommet of the mountain. If you look at the options, did he reach the valley or the river? No, of course not. He reached the peak, the summit. Sommet means peak. The context makes it almost impossible for it to be anything else. You are doing awesome. Seriously. You've learned the method, you've seen it in action, and now it is time for the final challenge. This one is all on you. I'm going to show you a short paragraph, and I want you to see if you can solve the mystery. You got this. Okay, here it is. Chaque matin, le boulanger prépare du pain frais. L'odeur délicieuse flotte dans la rue et attire de nombreux clients dans sa boutique. I'll read that one more time for you. Every morning, the boulanger prepares fresh bread. The delicious smell floats in the street and attracts many customers to his shop. All right, detective, let's look at the evidence. This person prepares fresh bread every morning. There's a delicious smell. They attract customers to their shop. Based on all those clues, what is a boulanger? Go ahead, take a second and lock in your answer. If you guessed baker, you are 100% correct. Case closed. See? You did it. All the clues, the bread, the smell, the shop, they all pointed directly to it. And think about it. You understood that entire paragraph without ever needing to stop for that one word. That's the power we're talking about. So, what does this all mean for you? Well, you now have this brand new tool in your reading toolkit. Using prediction means you're going to read with so much more flow and way less frustration. You'll be using those context clues to actively unlock meaning, which is going to build your reading confidence and your speed like crazy. And the best part? You'll finally be able to get lost in the story, not stuck in the dictionary. You've learned the technique, and you've already proven you can do it. So the only question left is, what story are you going to unlock first? Go grab a French book, a comic, an article online, and give it a shot. Happy reading! All right, are you ready to finally crack the code of French pronunciation, so you can start reading with some real confidence? Well, that is exactly what we are tackling today. Let's just dive right in. Okay, be honest. Have you ever stared at the word beaucoup, sounded out every single letter, and landed on something like beaucoup? If you have, you are definitely not alone. It's like a rite of passage for French learners. But the real question is, should it even sound the way it's spelled? Yeah, the short answer is a big no, but that's not your fault. Seriously, French just plays by a completely different set of rules. So in this explainer, we're going to learn those rules and turn all that confusion into real confidence. So here's the biggest trap right out of the gate. Thinking French is phonetic, like, say, Spanish, where what you see is what you get. Nope. In French, letters team up, they change their sounds, or sometimes they just disappear completely. A lot of this actually comes from history. As the spoken language changed over hundreds of years, people dropped sounds to talk faster, but the old spelling stuck around. It created all these little ghost letters in the words. That's the trap, and we're about to learn how to step right over it. And if we're going to beat these traps, we first have to know exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to focus on the 3 absolute biggest pronunciation mistakes that pretty much everyone makes. Once you can spot these culprits, you'll be so far ahead of the game. First up, the big one, the infamous silent letters. I mean, just look at the difference here between what's written and what you actually say. In il parle, that whole ant at the end, poof, it's gone, completely silent. And in petit, that final T just vanishes into thin air. French is absolutely packed with these invisible letters, especially at the ends of words. Okay, mistake number 2 is trying to pronounce every single vowel you see. In French, vowels love to form these little teams that create one single new sound. A perfect example is oiseau, the word for bird. It looks like a total mouthful, right? But OI just makes a wa sound, and O makes an O sound. So it's not 6 different sounds, it's just 2. Oiseau. Easy. And last but not least, we have the uniquely French nasal sounds. This is what happens when a vowel is followed by an N or an M. The sound kind of resonates up in your nose, and the N or M itself isn't pronounced hard like we do in English. So if you look at un bon vin, it's not un bon vin. It's this smooth flowing un bon vin. It's a totally different feel, right? Okay, we've pointed out all the problems. Now for the best part. The solutions. And these aren't some complicated high-level grammar theories. They're simple, actionable rules that you can literally start using the second you hear them. So for rule number 1, you need to train your brain to just ignore most final consonants. Seriously. If you see a word that ends in an S, T, D, or any of these others on the list, your new default setting should be silence. Just ignore it. You'll be right about 80% of the time. The word sound really ends on the vowel right before that last letter. Okay, for rule number 2, I want you to think of this as your secret decoder ring for French. You have to stop seeing individual letters. From now on, when you see O together, your brain just says, O. See oo? That's oo. Once you memorize these teams, words that used to look absolutely terrifying will suddenly look super simple. And for our third rule, let's really master this nasal sound. The signal for it is so simple. It's just a vowel immediately followed by an N or an M. When you see that pattern, that's your cue. Don't pronounce a hard consonant. Instead, that N or M just changes the vowel before it, sending the sound up through your nose. It's the difference between the English word on and the French sound en. You know, theory is great and all, but practice is really where it all starts to click. So I'm going to show you a word, and I want you to actually say it out loud, wherever you are. Don't be shy. Let's do this together. Okay, here's the first word. Take a look. How would you say this one? I'll give you a second. If you said tro, you absolutely nailed it. That is rule number 1 in action. That final P is just for looks. It's completely silent. See? You're already doing it. Excellent. Let's try another one. This word here means house. How do you say it? The correct way to say it is maison. Did you catch that nasal sound at the end? The on becomes that on sound. That's a perfect use of rule number 3. Well done. All right, last one for our little practice round. This one's a tiny bit tricky, so take your best shot. And the answer is bateau. This one is fantastic because it combines 2 of our rules. You've got the vowel team O, making that O sound, and you have the final silent T. Okay, now let's see how this all comes together for our final challenge. Okay, you've learned the rules, you've practiced the words, and now it's time to put it all together. This is your final challenge, just to prove to yourself that you've totally got this. Here it is, a full sentence. I want you to read this out loud, right now, using all the rules we just covered. I'll give you a few seconds. Go for it. So, how did it go? Let's break it down together, piece by piece. Les is lay with a silent S. Enfant is enfant. That's got 2 nasal sounds and 2 silent consonants. Mangeant is mange, a nasal sound plus that silent ant ending. And there's our old friend beaucoup, which we now know for sure is beaucoup. And finally, chocolat is chocolat with a silent T at the end. Just think about that for a second. In one single, pretty simple sentence, the children eat a lot of chocolate. We just applied our rules 5 different times. That is the power of what you just learned. You didn't just learn a few words, you learned the system behind the words. So if you only take one thing away from all this, let it be this. To read French well, you have to stop reading it like it's English. You've got to stop sounding out every single letter. Instead, you train your brain to see the patterns, the silent endings, the vowel teams, the nasal triggers. You start looking for the rules, not just the letters. You now have the keys to unlock French pronunciation. All those words that used to look so intimidating, they're now just little puzzles waiting for you to solve them with the rules you know. So my question for you is, what word are you going to go out and finally conquer now? Okay, so we all know practice is key, right? But what really makes it work, it's not just about doing something over and over again. Today, we're going to break down an expert's framework for a practice session that does more than just teach a skill. It actually builds real, deep confidence. You've totally been here before, right? You put in the hours, you run the drills, but you just hit a wall. That feeling of actually getting better, of feeling confident, it just feels like it's out of reach. It's honestly one of the most frustrating parts of learning anything. So the big question is, how do you build a practice session that smashes through that barrier? Well, it turns out the answer is in this simple, but wow, incredibly powerful blueprint. We actually found this whole structure inside a script from an expert French teacher, and it is designed to do one thing just brilliantly: build up your skill and your self-belief at the exact same time. Now, here's what's so cool about this. It's got this dual focus. This isn't just about trying to get faster or more accurate. The real genius here is that it's targeting two things at once: the practical skill of speed and that psychological feeling of confidence. And you're going to see how one just feeds the other. So here it is. This is the whole roadmap. It's a 5-part structure that takes a learner on this really carefully thought out journey. You've got the hook, the intro, the timer, the practice, and finally the challenge. And trust me, the order here is everything. So let's break each one down. Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off with step 1, the hook. And this isn't just some casual, hey, how are you? It's the critical opening move that really sets the entire mood for the session. A really great hook gives you instant focus. It immediately answers that question that every learner has in the back of their mind: why should I even care about this? By setting a super clear goal right from the jump, you get their undivided attention and you prime them for what's about to happen. I mean, look at this example. It's not just telling you what you're going to do, it's making a promise. It's exciting. It makes the goal feel real and personal, and it turns what could be a boring old practice session into a mission. Okay, so the learner's hooked. Now we get to the absolute engine of this whole thing. This next part actually combines 3 of those steps from our blueprint: the intro, where you lay down the rules, the timer, which creates that focus, and the practice itself, where the skill gets built. This is where the magic really happens. So before that clock even starts, you need the intro. This is where you explain the rules of the game really clearly and quickly. And the psychology here is just so important. By setting expectations right up front, you bring their anxiety way down. The point isn't to create stressful, high-stakes pressure. It's all about creating a safe, controlled little bubble to just focus and get fluent. And that leads us right to the timer. So why 60 seconds? Because it's not scary. It makes the whole task feel like, oh, I can do that. I mean, come on, anyone can focus on something for just 1 minute. This little window of time gets people to just jump in and try. It's the perfect amount of positive pressure. This simple little phrase, that's the trigger for step 4, the practice. It just instantly flips a switch in the learner's brain from passively listening to actively doing. All their energy gets focused on the task, and the practice kicks off with real, clear intention. And this is what we're aiming for. You can literally see a learner go from being slow and hesitant to being fast and smooth. They stop reading every single word and start seeing ideas in phrases. And most importantly, that feeling of uncertainty at the beginning gets replaced by a genuine sense of accomplishment. It's that belief that, hey, I can actually do this. All right, after that core practice, we have to lock in that new skill. And that's the job of the 5th and final step in our blueprint: the mini challenge. This is how we make sure those gains actually stick. Now, this challenge isn't just for fun. It's a super important cognitive step. What it does is it pushes the learner to use their new skill in a slightly different way, which proves to them that their improvement is real. It's not a fluke. A challenge like this just turns the whole experience into a game. It taps into that natural human desire we all have to get better and to compete against ourselves. It totally empowers the learner and makes sure the whole session ends on a real high note of achievement and, feeling motivated. So let's step back for a second. Why is this 5-step sequence, the hook, the intro, timer, practice, and challenge, why is it so effective? Well, its power isn't really in any one of the pieces. It's in how they all fit together to create this complete psychological journey for the person learning. I mean, just think about what we just built. You've got that time pressure creating this intense focus. You've got the repetition in a safe environment that builds real confidence without any fear of failure. And then that final challenge turns it all into a fun game. Altogether, these things create this clear, predictable road that leads straight to that amazing feeling of accomplishment. And really, that's the magic of this whole framework. It's so much more than just a lesson plan. It's a tool for managing a learner's emotional state. It literally, systematically, guides them from that nervous, I don't know if I can do this feeling, all the way to that powerful, wow, I did it feeling. So the original model for this was for learning a language, which is awesome, but the potential here is just huge. I mean, imagine using this to learn how to type faster, or practice a guitar solo, or get good at some new piece of software. The applications are pretty much endless. So the real question is, what skill are you going to master with it? You know, have you ever wondered what makes a great lesson? Like, really stick with you? Today, we're going to tear down this amazing teaching formula. It's a 6-step blueprint that's built for maximum impact. So let's dive in and see how it works. Seriously, think about it for a second. What made that lesson so unforgettable? Was it the teacher? Maybe the topic? Or was it the way it was put together? It turns out that structure, yeah, that's a huge piece of the secret sauce. So this whole framework we're digging into today, it actually comes from a set of instructions for an expert French teacher. I mean, it was designed for just one super effective reading lesson. But what's so wild is that the principles behind it, you can apply them to teaching or learning pretty much anything. And here it is, the whole shebang, the full 6-step structure. Hook, intro, text, breakdown, practice, and finally, the challenge. Think of this as our roadmap for the next few minutes, all right? Each one of these steps has a very specific job to do in taking a learner all the way from just being curious to actually getting it. All right, let's kick things off with Act 1, the setup. You know, you can't just dump information on someone. You've got to prepare the brain to actually receive it. And that's the entire job of these first 2 steps. It's all about priming the pump. So, where do we start? Well, everything, and I mean everything, begins with the hook. Now, this isn't just some cheap gimmick, okay? It's a super important cognitive step. Its whole job is to basically tap the brain on the shoulder and say, hey, pay attention. This stuff is important, and it's relevant to you. By grabbing your attention and waking up what you already know, it kind of builds these little mental coat hooks, a place for all the new info to hang. Without that, you're basically just talking into the wind. Okay, so once you've got their attention, what's next? Well, you give them a map for the journey. And that, right there, is the entire point of the intro. Really, what the intro does is it gets rid of all the uncertainty. Think about it. When you know where you're going and what the goal is, your brain doesn't have to work as hard. You're not wasting all this mental energy wondering, what's next? Where's this going? Instead, you can focus all your brain power on, actually learning. Okay, so the brain is primed, it's ready to go. Now we move into Act 2. The core content. This is where the magic happens, right? It's where the actual knowledge gets transferred. And the way it's structured here, it's just brilliant. It all starts with what this blueprint calls the text. You can think of this as the raw material, the new idea or concept, just presented in its natural, unfiltered form. And the strategy here is actually pretty fascinating. You first show the learner the complete idea. You let them see it or hear it all at once. It's like showing someone the picture on the puzzle box before you hand them the pieces. It gives them that all-important context, so it's way easier to see the big picture later on. And right after they've seen the whole thing, you move to what might be the single most important step for really understanding something, the breakdown. I mean, look at this comparison. It just shows the transformation perfectly. On the left, you've got this big, dense block of info that could honestly be pretty overwhelming. But on the right, it's been broken down into these nice, manageable, easy-to-digest pieces. This is literally where complexity turns into clarity. You're defining the terms, you're explaining the rules, you're connecting all the dots for the learner. So at this point, the learner gets the concept. They understand it. But, and this is a big but, understanding something isn't the same as knowing it. And that brings us to our final act, Act 3, making it stick. This is where we make that huge shift from just passively taking in information to actively mastering it. The science that powers this whole phase is something called active recall, and it's super powerful. See, instead of just rereading your notes or rewatching a video, you force your brain to actually pull up the information from memory. It's like exercise for your brain. That act of retrieving it, of pulling it out instead of just shoving it in, is what builds those really strong, long-lasting memories. And the first way we start applying this active recall idea is through step 5, the practice. This is exactly where the learner starts to get their hands dirty. It's the very first time they're actively using the concepts from the breakdown. We're talking about guided, structured exercises here. The goal is to build up some initial confidence and start carving out those neural pathways that turn abstract knowledge into a real, usable skill. And all of this, it all builds to one final, culminating moment. The last step of the whole lesson, the challenge. Now, it's really important to get this. This is not some big, scary final exam. Not at all. Think of it more like a mini challenge, a small, focused task where the learner gets to combine everything they just learned to solve a brand new little problem. This is the ultimate proof that they get it, and it locks in the learning in a way that's actually really satisfying. So when you step back and look at the whole thing, what started out as just a simple lesson plan for a French class, well, it reveals itself to be something much bigger. It's a master blueprint for truly effective learning and communication. And these really are universal principles. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're teaching someone to code, explaining a business strategy, or just trying to learn a new hobby for yourself. This structure just plain works. Always start with a hook to get the brain engaged. Give them a map so they know where they're headed. Present the big picture, then explain the details. Move from just listening to actually doing, and always end with a challenge to make it all stick. It's such a powerful framework because it respects the way our brains are naturally wired to learn. So now that you have the blueprint, the only real question left is, what are you going to teach?